What's up, everybody? AlexNorimaki here, and the time has come once again for Soundtrack Saturday. This week is a true classic. I'm talking about The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Now, I could spin a whole video explaining what makes this game so iconic in the gaming world, and maybe someday I will, but suffice it to say that this game, in my opinion, is a very important entry in the history of gaming. Why talk about the soundtrack of a game most everyone already knows inside and out? Simple. The soundtrack plays an important role in the ambiance of the game and the story itself. Heck, there's no way to progress much further than the first dungeon without the use of music, so let me learn you something on this fine weekend. The game begins in Kokiri Forest, Link's adoptive childhood home. The Kokiri are forest-dwelling people who never age into adults, wear green garb, follow the leadership of the Great Deku Tree, and never leave the forest out of fear of turning into Astolfos. The song plays off of the identity of the Kokiri, being a bright and cheery song with no hint of danger anywhere in it. That works well, because as long as the Great Deku Tree is around, Kokiri Forest is void of any danger. The song being upbeat and cheerful also works as the theme of Link's quote-unquote home. Link has spent his entire life here, and there's no reason for him, or you, to be uncomfortable here. Plus, and this is just me thinking aloud here, the song sounds almost curious, which works perfectly seeing as some of the Kokiri will literally stare at you. Possibly the most well-known song from any Legend of Zelda game. Even people who don't play Legend of Zelda have at least heard the song somewhere on the internet. It's true, Saria played that ocarina like her life depended on it. In the context of Ocarina of Time, the song serves two purposes. Link can play Saria's song on his ocarina anytime he wants to speak with Saria, no matter where he is in relation to Kokiri Forest. That's especially important in the first part of the game, since Saria can often give helpful hints on where you should be headed next. The song also plays in the Lost Woods, which is equally as important. The Lost Woods, as the name implies, are easy to get lost in. Run through the wrong tunnel and you'll wind up back outside the entrance, but you can follow the sound of Saria playing her song to find the correct path to the Sacred Forest Meadow, which is the location of the Forest Temple. Those are all the great reasons, but my reason for loving this song is because it makes Darunia absolutely throw it back. I love this song so much that you've probably heard it used in some of my other videos. It's so mischievous and lighthearted. In context, this plays when young Link is sneaking his way through the Hyrule Castle courtyard on his way to meet a young Princess Zelda. The mischievous tone of this song comes into play because you've already snuck past a few guards outside the castle walls, and now you get to clown more guards by sneaking past what I assume they think is a well-planned patrol route. It's a really simple game of watching the patrol pattern and running by when you have an opening. These guards don't look behind them ever, and don't hear Link stomping in his little Kokiri boots on the stone floors as he runs right behind him. He cheeses all the guards to the tune of funny music. It's like the music is saying, I know this looks hard, but these guards are stupid, so you'll be fine. This song is kinda interesting. It plays during your battles with dungeon mini-bosses like Astolfos in the Forest Temple or Dark Link in the Water Temple. It's very clearly battle music, complete with snare drums and a hard-hitting bass drum. Middle boss battle lets you know that this enemy isn't like the other enemies you face in the dungeon so far, and it implies the importance of the battle. The mini-bosses are always guarding something important, generally the dungeon item. That said, the music isn't the most dramatic music you've ever heard, maybe a 5 out of 10 on the drama scale. That's because it's for many bosses. So, even if it's your very first playthrough of the game, you feel like there's something harder to come in the form of the boss battle. Even though this battle isn't a walk in the park either, you do still feel that it's only mid-range. Lord Jabu-Jabu is a giant fish god thing who spends its every waking moment laying its big old butt on the land at the edge of Zora's fountain, waiting to be fed a fish. In fact, he's so lazy and hungry that he swallowed Gerudo, the Zora princess, so Link has to go inside his belly to find her. The accompanying music is much different from pretty much any of the other music you hear in the game, which is perfect, because inside Lord Jabu-Jabu's belly is way different from any other dungeon you visit in the game. You're rooting around a fish's innards, carrying an uppity fish girl on your shoulders.
Yikes.
Exactly. The music has an almost hip-hop sounding beat to it, which isn't even the weirdest part. The weird parts of the song are the random gastric sounding noises you hear throughout. No, it's not just sound effects. Those stomach grumbles and burps are a part of the song itself, and they serve to remind you every 15 seconds that you're still inside a fish. As if the uvulas as door locks and random pulls of stomach acid weren't enough. Sheik's theme, played entirely on a harp, is a truly beautiful piece. Though I don't think I've ever heard a song played on a harp that wasn't beautiful, but I digress. Sheik remains Adult Link's mysterious ally throughout the entirety of the adult portion of the game, showing up when Link first pulls the Master Sword and whenever Link needs to learn a new dungeon warp song. He always speaks in pseudocode and gives you no real reason to even suspect who he truly is, Princess Zelda. But the song leads you to believe that you can absolutely trust this man, and the song being played on a harp is because, well, Sheik plays all his songs on a harp. That's really it. Smarter players might have been able to piece together Sheik's true identity because Zelda's Lullaby does make a small cameo in Sheik's theme, but I'm not a smart player, and I didn't figure that one out until I was in high school. To this day, the Forest Temple still gives me the creeps more than the Shadow Temple does, and half of it is because of the music. The Forest Temple is an overgrown, abandoned mansion at the very back of the Lost Woods. Yeah, and it's haunted.
Oh my god.
Yeah, you heard me right. The first thing Link has to contend with after waking from his 7-year-long sleep is 4 Poe sisters, Amy, Beth, Joelle, and Meg, who prevent you from heading to the dungeon's basement by stealing the flames that somehow allow the elevator to work. Granted, ghosts really aren't that scary, and except for Meg, the Poe sisters behave the same as regular Poes. The problem is how oddly empty this massive mansion is. The giant main room of the temple has no enemies in it, ever, but it's so dark and the freaky music makes you keep checking over your shoulder because something needs to be there, right? The music seems to have something off about it too. I don't know if those are supposed to be bones rattling in the background, but my imagination tells me that it's probably bones rattling around in the background. I can't even properly understand the song, and you want me to spend an hour in this dungeon fighting angry spirits? Miss me with it. Ah, yes. The God-forsaken Water Temple. The temple everyone has absolutely every right to hate. For those of you listening who don't know about the scourge that is the original Water Temple, let me tell you our tale of woe. The Water Temple, fittingly, has a theme of water, in the form of having to raise and lower the water level a bunch of times. And really, that's not the worst part about it. Next up on the tier of terribleness is the fact that you have to switch between your regular boots and iron boots an unholy amount of times to rise and sink while in the water. The iron boots in the original game were not C-equip items and had to be changed on the pause screen every single time. And at the top of the tier of terribleness, if you don't have the foresight to move a particular block at the beginning of the dungeon, your life is a living hell an hour later. Or maybe you did do that, but don't have clairvoyance to tell you to sink under an unassuming floating wood platform to move forward in the dungeon about halfway through. Whatever the reason, the music doesn't help the insanity. If anything, it kind of makes it worse. You're already pulling your hair out and spewing profanity, but then along comes this music with so much going on in it that you actually cannot think. Sure, they fixed the problems in the 3DS remake, but good lord, man. Gerudo Valley is a bop, and I will not be told otherwise. The Gerudo are a race of desert-dwelling people who are all female, save for one male born to them every 100 years. 1,000 points to the person who can guess what that one male was. They all have red hair, dark skin, and abs from Adonis himself. This is less so in future games, but in Ocarina of Time, they're heavily implied to be of some sort of Middle Eastern descent, which is shown in their clothing and in the song. The song consists of a few different acoustic guitars, a steady beat, and horns, which tie the song back to being in a Legend of Zelda game. It plays not just in Gerudo Valley, but also in the desert Colossus, where the Spirit Temple is. The Gerudo are very different from Hylians. They look different, they worship different deities, and even speak a different language. The music reflects that difference by not sounding like anything else in the game, which primarily takes place in Hyrule. The Spirit Temple theme is a very unhurried piece. It almost makes you stop and really take in the temple for what it is. The Spirit Temple itself is split into two halves, one only accessible to young Link and the other only accessible to adult Link. The whole temple is a metaphor for time, and the music practically commands that you understand and respect that. The song is paced by hand drums and very soft string instruments. The most prominent part of the song is reminiscent of the Dilruba, an instrument of Indian origin. The Dilruba's notes snake all over the place, which is fitting because the Desert Colossus, a statue that depicts the Gerudo's goddess of the sand, includes a snake. Even though you're moving through this dungeon, fighting enemies, and solving puzzles, the Spirit Temple and the music work together to create a very unique atmosphere that demands respect for the Gerudo's culture, and I think that's beyond genius. Soundtrack Saturday has once again come to a close. What'd you think of this week's episode? Let me know down in the comments which song you liked the best. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to hit the subscribe button with a spin attack to stay up to date on Soundtrack Saturday, rants, and gameplays. And until next time, you guys. Peace.